said in the introduction, but if everyone was there, that I started the current blog that I showed this morning, Digging the Digital. I started about a year and a half ago, sort of finding out about Jekyll. I've been using a lot of blog engines for the past 20-ish years. From the old Blogger to Movable Type to WordPress to some Dutch blogging engines. And I wanted to learn about Jekyll, wanted to learn about static site generators, and then sort of stumbled into this sort of Alice in Wonderland kind of, how do you call it, rabbit hole of this thing called the IndieWeb, and all these things like web mentions and micro formats and micropub and website, and all these things that I still don't quite understand, but I'm getting better at it. And the thing is that for the past year I've been sort of, learning myself on, what is this and how does this work and what do I do, and I have killed my website as well and crashed servers and threw away GitHub repositories, learning it the hard way actually. So that's the thing that I don't mind. I don't mind doing that, and I don't mind learning this for myself. But the other part of me sort of always wants to advocate, educate, learn other people that there are more ways to be online. You can have your own blog. You don't have to live on Facebook, Twitter, and other silos as well. So for the past year or so, I've also, I still do a bit of public speaking, and I do some workshops every now and again, but I have quite a network of people in the Netherlands that are also, they're developers, they're online strategists, they're digital marketeers, all sorts of people. And I sort of want to show them that this IndieWeb thing is not something weird or hard to do. You have to be a programmer to understand that. And I'm sort of looking into ways of, okay, so how do I tell this to people, and what can I show them? So that's one thing that I sort of want to sort of pick your brains on how do you do that yourself. And the other thing is, and that's more for myself, but I hope for all of us, is so how do you do your work on the web? How do you, what sort of tools do you use? Do you use extra tools besides having a WordPress or having what's called Graph? What sort of strategy do you have for, I don't know, backup your blog post locally, stuff like that? And yeah, sort of try to learn from each other and see maybe you learn from one another and can improve your own indie strategy. So that's sort of the, well, that was my introduction. Discuss. Usually works in the Netherlands, but I'm a blunt Dutchman, so yeah.
What's your priority? Because you mentioned a couple of things there. Is your highest priority that breaking that point of entry barrier into this into the tools and the knowledge is here because we're mentioning.
Yep.
You want to translate that somehow, right?
Yeah, sort of translating. Well, like we saw this morning already, that Aaron doing some live coding here, that scares the shit out of a lot of people.
Even though it was cool.
Even though it was, but I know that even people I know that are pretty fluent, sort of doing their thing on the web, will never do stuff like that. Will never sort of, dive deep into all sorts of code and stuff like that. So yeah.
But I think there's almost a preliminary step, which is why would I mean, we know why we like the IndieWeb, but if I think about my friends on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it might be, I can't persuade them. They see no downside to the ease of use and the, quote, freeness of the big social silos. And there's nothing I can say to them
No.
except, hey, it's cool. And they say, yeah, it's cool for you, but I don't want to do it. And at that point, I walk away.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, it's how can you be ready for somebody who shows an interest? And if I think about myself,
That's a good one, yeah.
I was I can't even remember how I first found out about it, but I know it was to do with wanting a quick posting thing where I wouldn't lose stuff. And I looked at getting stuff back out of Twitter, and Twitter doesn't, it's never caught up, I've really never,
No.
and I found Known, and Known, with Known, which then was effectively a turnkey IndieWeb solution, but I didn't know what IndieWeb was all about. And then I discovered you needed a certificate, SSL certificate, and my host, that was already beyond me at that stage. Now it's much easier. I mean, now you can get your Let's Encrypt very easy. But I don't think you can persuade people to do it.
Because normal people don't take this step. They don't want to take their stuff out of Twitter on their own site.
Exactly.
They have it in Twitter, on Facebook, and they're quite happy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I do have a growing group of people around me that are sort of seeing the downside of using it, but have no clue as to what type of alternatives might be out there and how to actually start doing that at all. And they're also not ready to start live coding.
No.
So they need sort of a ramp that helps them to maybe to articulate the discomfort first, and then, okay,
And
what are the easiest steps to
I
take?
think that's, to me, that's, if somebody says, okay, I'm ready, I want to explore these ideas. At the moment, even with the new 3 streams on the wiki and everything, at the moment, you can't say to somebody, okay, do this.
It is, because it is very overwhelming.
It's very overwhelming,
Yeah.
but also there's a philosophy within IndieCamp, within IndieWeb, that you must do your own thing.
Yeah, which
And
does
people
not
are
work
not prepared
for,
to say, okay, go for WordPress,
Yeah.
or which plugins, and
Yeah.
how. And people get sort of, why should I be doing Bridgie? And it's,
Okay.
the plurality kind of gets in, the freedom kind of gets in the way almost. You almost want to say to somebody, if you've got your domain, here's where you start. Then you can move on, and because you've got your domain, you can move on in any direction you choose.
You wanted to chime in?
Yeah, maybe there's something like a sort of starter kit here. This was in my mind because, I'm totally new to it, and I heard about it the last few days. So I thought, well, I'm an artist, I'm interested in my content, so I just have a look. But when I see this live coding, okay, I know what I heard about micropub. I knew the name, but that's it. Or what a JSON file is, all right, but then it stops because I'm not so into it, but I'm interested. But when I talk to artist friends, they just say, hey, I put my stuff on Instagram, and and well, but I think there should be
And of course it's
for artists also this idea, well, maybe I don't want to do it, but how can I do it? And that this is why I'm here, just to get it.
And I guess it's a really big step from putting the stuff on Facebook and Twitter and don't care about hosting and stuff. You just have an interface and put it there. And on the other side, there's this. You want to run your own site, and then you have to care about hosting the stuff and how to install a web server and PHP and all the stuff. So the learning curve is very steep, very steep at the start. So and to get at least a basic site running, you have to put much effort in there to get it up there. And then in the web space, you have this like of approach when you can start small and build up from there. But to even get to the first stage of running your own site and your own domain and add realme and stuff, it's if you don't have any coding skills or any interest in that, it's pretty hard to even get to the basic steps. So even if you provide a starter kit like you mentioned with Known, it's this. I think I run it myself. It's a starter kit, so you can put it on your web server. You just have to run PHP there, and it runs happily there. But you first have to get your own web server and your own domain and a hoster where you put it. And for most people who are not that much into this backend stuff, this is the really hard part to get running there.
Well, that's the
also
thing.
be useful just to know what you need.
Yeah,
But
what's
you
next?
mentioned
What's
exactly this. You need
Yeah.
this,
Mhm.
and then you get an idea.
Yeah.
I can relate to that as well, because I mean the past couple of weeks I've also been thinking that it takes so much time to sort of update templates and find out what's going wrong, and all I want to do is just write and just write a blog post and that's it. And it's sort of this duality is maybe I should just install WordPress and be done with it.
Yeah, if you first get in contact with the IndieWeb scene, it's like we had this talk like 2 years ago at the IndieWebCamp, just right here, because when you first get in contact with the IndieWeb scene, you get hammered with all this like microformats and this and stuff. You get all these concepts and these weird things and all these hacker types like Aaron who starts coding right along his talk, and it really is hard if you don't have this background. And you see, this is this like geek meetup, and I kind of don't belong here.
Yeah.
So, and as I said, we had this talk like 2 years ago, and we didn't really found a solution to it.
No.
It's really hard.
Okay.
Sorry.
Philip, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think the way to model it is to try to think of it as primitives, right? I think like if you're learning programming, obviously the logic and condition is really good, but the difference between understanding the string and an integer, there's a parallel there in how the normal folk don't understand this stuff, and I think this is where it's coming to expose a little bit more. Right, obviously social media has a big pull on that, but people are getting educated with a Wi-Fi connection versus like an Ethernet connection. And I think that those are sort of like the primitive elements of this sort of, knowledge that needs to be presented. Hopefully, like future generations will have a better understanding of like, okay, I understand that a server communicates in this way. But even understanding the concept of like, can you tell the difference between 0 and null?
Yeah.
Like, these are like basic things that people should be able to understand. Because they're like the things that glue it together. But what I'm really curious from like, if we could backtrack, was you mentioned as an artist, this is what you want to learn. And you mentioned that you have people that are interested in finding this stuff out. So the question is, how would you consume it and how would you deliver it? If you had some information to give.
And also that I'm interested also in coding a bit.
Okay.
Yeah? So with Python, but not related to the web.
But if you wanted to learn something new, like how would you consume that information?
Yeah, I think, the first step I think is interesting when Aaron was coding, that something showed up, that something worked.
So the workshop environment really works
So,
for you
so,
too.
so, yeah, I think, okay, I didn't understand most of the things, but
Yeah.
with this I get all right, more or less. And then I thought, okay, he did something, and then it was visible.
Right, right.
So this is a point, and maybe something how the code really, do I have to code everything from scratch, for example? Is something, it's really difficult even to find a question to.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
So for example, when I say, well, I have my own server, I have my own website, I hosted Joomla on there, and before it was small pieces of HTML, but this was 10 years ago. So then, in the last years, there's nothing on it. I just Joomla thing, but nothing behind it. Yeah, you can log in, and then I thought, well, okay, let's look how other things could work. Yeah.
Okay.
And I just had to look maybe 1 hour a week to check a few websites and had to, yeah.
Okay, but that's how you learn sort of, you know, looking in documentations, wiki, and
Yeah.
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 Okay. So, Jeremy?
I don't know, last time, Callum, you started working on this intro to IndieWeb pages, and I confess I haven't looked at that lately, but that seemed to be going in what I thought was a really good direction.
Yeah, IndieWebGuides.org. I started doing that 2 years, 1 year ago, and it was trying to digest content into more user-friendly language that tried to translate the kind of more technical terms into something which anybody could just pick up with. But that's still, it's open for anybody to contribute to. Just trying to get more people there.
Because that combined with, see, I think you need, I mean, I think microblog is going in the right direction, whereby you pay your money.
Yeah.
If you don't even want, if you don't want to send in a feed, you just pay whatever it is now, $2 a month, something like that,
Yeah.
which is prohibitive until he starts taking annuals. But that gets you in. You're in without even knowing that you're in.
Yeah.
You used to be able to get hosted known. That's gone now because they've pivoted to education of more of that. But I believe that a paid for service, so long as the pay isn't huge, maybe with a longer trial period than microblogs, 2 weeks. I don't know anything about the economics of it, but if you offered one package on a hosted server, to which you would either you make it easy for people to do their domains, or you actually sell domains, or you insist that they have a domain before they even come along. To me, that would be the least scary way of saying to somebody, okay, here you are, here's a blog on your domain, you can syndicate, you can maybe pull stuff in,
But even,
but minimally flexible.
yeah, but I think even maybe just a pre-configured WordPress installation, you know,
Yeah.
with a hoster, you know, you buy a domain and you get a WordPress installation.
And a one-click.
But not just with the 2017 team, because then you'll, you know, have to start over again, but then with the sort of this kit with plugins, or maybe a, you know,
Like
really
a walkthrough through the configuration?
maybe, yes, something just like this sort of developed kit with microformat, with all the different plugins just, you know, pre-installed, and just, you know, that's the way to go. And then you even don't have to know that you're sort of part of the IndieWeb, but you are being a good web citizen, you know, by using proper protocols and formats. Is that something like?
You have to have an easy way to do the stuff you do now on Facebook and Twitter, to do this on your own site.
Yeah.
But with a visually pleasing UI and some stuff you can run on your cell phone. It has to be just like the experience you get on Facebook, but not on Facebook. Yeah. But because if you take someone who's using Facebook and then give him Quill, so it's like
He doesn't understand.
Yeah, he doesn't understand. He sees like these tokens and URLs and stuff. And
well, there's another thing you say is that the mobile applications. One of the designers I work with. I mean, there's maybe some of you know that there's this sort of federated alternative to Instagram is coming.
Yeah,
PixelFed. It should have been live, but well, he kind of got too positive about it, so it's not live yet. But and that's really an interesting way of moving forward, to sort of move out of Instagram and use this federated thing. So I talked about it with a friend of mine who's a designer and also an avid Instagram user. And the first thing he said is, yeah, but where's the app? So I said, yeah, but you know, they have the mobile website. It's, yeah, but you know, it's not as, you know, as good and as nice and, you know, as easy to use as a thing like Instagram. And then I'm stumped over, yeah, well, you got a point. Yeah, I know. So even, you know, just moving away from the desktop to your website to the mobile, that's even the next step, or maybe that should be the first step.
I think it comes down to the individual's, like you were saying earlier, like desire. Why is it even worth it, right? I think that's going to be the barrier for this.
Yeah.
But the good thing is identify the ones that have the interest and then, you know, prepare content for them.
Yeah, but then just give them this package
Right.
up front, you know, with a nice bow on it. And
Yeah, well, it sounds like there's opportunity for this sort of products to be developed. Like, you know, maybe it doesn't exist, you know. I mean,
where would this live with hosters, hosting companies? I mean, all the hosting companies offer WordPress one-click.
Yeah.
That's like 40% of what they need to offer. Do you know any hosting companies that go a little further with their one-clicks? I mean, that's where you have to experience to how do we address people.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, you said I'm an artist, so I assume portfolio. Where can I see your work? Maybe contact, maybe catalog of your back work. So that's a pretty specific use case. So you can target that, and I think hosters might have experience with that. I mean, there's hosters that go to digital agencies and stuff. So
yeah,
we
but
need to help there.
yeah, there are even more at the company I work for. We are building a new site right now in WordPress, and we went with the packages that StudioPress has, is the Genesis framework and themes, and that the theme comes with pre-installed plugins. So you download the plugins, and then it has this. You install the theme, and then you have to install the plugins as well, and then, you know, it just works all together, and you can sort of get going. And you know, that could be a way for this as well, is to have this easy theme with a couple of plugins, have a walkthrough, maybe that if you are ready to sort of not move away from Facebook and Twitter, but sort of have this own place on the web, where you can also post on Twitter and on Instagram. Well, not on Facebook, since their API is really not non-existent anymore. You know, it should be easy to do, and that's sort of the barrier right now. Is that I say, well, you know, you can check a few of my blog posts and check the wiki, but I know that if they go to the wiki, it's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
you know, it's too much. And they don't want to spend time, you know, finding all these different solutions and alternatives. So yeah.
I have a question about the indie web philosophy. So, as you mentioned, do I, as a newbie, should I install my own server and host a website on it? Because I'm feeling quite comfortable with the solution that I just can buy me some web space and host my page, just doing some HTML and CSS files.
Yeah.
I think the most important requirement is that you have your own domain. Right? It doesn't actually matter where you host your website. You can do all sorts of fancy stuff, but you could also just buy a simple web hosting account. I think the most important, the key to it all is the domain, because that's what belongs to you, and the most important thing about content on the web is the URL, right? As long as you're in control of the URL, it doesn't really matter where it's.
Because then you can take everything to someplace else.
You can move it whenever you want, actually, in theory at least. I mean, providers could make it really hard for you to do that, but it's possible, as long as you're in control of the domain.
Okay, that's fine. And my second thought about this discussion is I am feeling really motivated when I see some Twitter posts from Quincy Lawson. Do you know them, Kim? Quincy Lawson is a Twitterer who sends links into Twitter and motivates you as a newbie to get to know some other programming languages. He's an initiator of freecodecamp.org, and it's also like a code academy, editor-based environment where you can test your code. So this is really a really good help for me to code for
To
myself.
move forward, yeah.
In such websites as Code Academy or IndieWebCamp, and to see people who just also have the same level as me and have done something really good out of it.
Yeah, but that would also sort of move you forward if you have
Yeah.
this virtual place like the Free Code Camp or anywhere where you could sort of find people in the same situation. And yeah.
And the reason why I stayed here, because the room was full of men, and you also started with something I didn't even know, is that I'm a political person. I don't want to use the big capitalistic monopoles around me. And the second thought of this is just I like to see people gathered around a topic and don't earn money with it. It's really cool.
We're really good at that.
Yeah.
Not earning money.
Not earning money. It's a core skill of all of us.
Really good at that. Not everybody.
But I guess I think this is really a difficult issue for all these kind of internet technology related communities, which kind of like to draw in these techie geek men, and they get around, and then if you come from the outside and don't have this much background, and all the talks you see about like these back-end technologies and hacking and stuff, it's kind of hard to get in there and to feel welcome there. Yeah.
I am a digital project manager,
Yeah.
and I have to tolerate the geekiness.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but in the end, the whole community has to ask itself: is this a place just for hackers to run new cool technology, or do we want to bring this message out to all interested people? Yeah.
And this is a marketing issue.
That's the thing, and it's a marketing issue. And we, as I said, we like 2 years ago we talked about this, and we had made personas and all this stuff.
Yeah, it was an onboarding session.
It was kind of
onboarding, and actually it's an ongoing effort.
Yeah.
Because we never really stopped and never really put a lot of effort into it. It basically lives only at the IndieWebCamp.
Yeah.
We continued like last year in Berlin.
Yeah.
Always, but still.
Yeah, but there's still not much to get out there, I guess.
It's because we all don't earn money.
Yeah.
As I say, we're really good at wasting time.
Yeah. But I think it's important for this whole issue to get this message out, like Yoshi said. The only basic thing you have to have is a domain name, and then you're free to host it wherever you want, and then you are able, if you go to a hoster and say, okay, just set me up a web blog there, then you are able to post stuff under your own URL. And this is the first step to get off of Facebook and Twitter and stuff, and all the other gimmicky things to integrate these external silos into your own site. That's the second and the first step. But it's quite hard to get this all in one package. So to get this turnkey distribution you set up, and just have to click 3 buttons, and then you're connected with Facebook and Twitter, and it gets integrated there. It would be nice if we have it, but we don't. And if you want to dig in there, just right now, you have to know about these formats and these external tools like Bridgie and stuff, and then it gets into quite hacking area. Then you have to glue these things together, and this gets hard if you're not a hacker by heart, or if you're not really interested in these backend things.
Okay. Yeah, that's clear.
One of the things that there's this group in Berlin, Tactical Tech Collective, and they make information security easy and approachable for journalists, basically. And they have these beautifully designed little booklets and kits and to help people, on board and start taking their own information security more seriously. But what I noticed there is that it's highly specific for a small group of professionals, and then they try to use their language and their recognizable examples. But that would sort of imply that if you want to repeat that for a larger group of people, that you need to have different varieties. So if you're a casual whatever, you fall in this niche, and you have like a different set of arguments or a different set of examples to take you through the onboarding steps.
The journalists is a very good example because they are, as part of the generations, they're a bridge between generation 2 and generation 3, I think, of the IndieWeb generations. But also because a lot of journalists publish on whatever the site may be, Guardian, FT, Wall Street Journal, and some of them have their own sites, but they don't IndieWebify their sites, so that comments on a post don't come back to their site. And a couple of people have tried to target individual journalists and say, why don't you enable people to comment directly here instead of commenting only at the publishers? And that works. Some journalists have taken that to heart and actually have gone that way. But it requires somebody to reach out to them and say, why don't you do this? And mostly they don't reply. I mean, I've done it once or twice. Chris Aldrich in Los Angeles has done it for a few people. But again, it comes back to the fundamental, why should I do that?
Okay. Yeah, just because that's the thing I've sort of heard all the way through. So, why should I do that? And you just mentioned that, this could be a sort of a first step away from Facebook and Twitter. I sort of disagree with that because to me it's not a choice. I mean, I feel perfectly fine on a place like Twitter because of the network, because of the serendipity that every now and again happens. But next to that, I do want my own place to post stuff and to be more, to do more than just 280 characters or be confined to when I had a Facebook account that you just can't do anything on Facebook. You just post stuff on Facebook. So that, I think it's something like that wish. If people sort of reach out to that, it should be easy to get started. I've heard talks about a starter kit for different types of people, for journalists, for artists. There's you have different needs. But then it's the question, okay, so who's going to do that? Who's going to build that? Who's going to promote that? Then you get to the marketing part as well. Is also what sort of my angle is that it is a strong message coming from the IndieWeb community, and it's an important message that more people sort of take to heart, but they don't necessarily attribute it to this thing called the IndieWeb. They just say, they call it the open web or what have you. I think there's something happening over there that needs to be put together and published again, or sort of told again, maybe not by us, but by other people, by other thought leaders in the internet industry. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can contribute, right? On GitHub, you mentioned it? we can make changes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's also like, you also asked earlier about like how RM strategies or how we got
Yeah,
into it.
yeah, that's one.
Yeah.
We have till two, so we have like 15 minutes left. So yeah.
Yeah, so when I start, I mean, it's been over 20 years that I started getting into the web, so I think that's why this basic concepts, like the primitives of whatever the knowledge is, I think it's what I should go back to, because I have other interests aside from this, but I think that, like you were saying, you know, you have to kind of have this interest, I don't know.
Yep.
It's got to click,
Yep.
right, if you want to take that sort of approach. And I think because, okay, I've been to it, I've done other stuff, obviously, that means that I'm not so highly advanced as somebody who's on top of it. But I think the ability of being able to do that, I think is what's interesting. So I think it's interesting to, or it's important to identify that. Because then you would say, okay, this person can have a tendency to be, you know, able to learn or to be able to absorb it, right? Because
Okay.
that's a differentiating factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there are two angles to this. I mean, there's the one side is the person who wants to know
Right.
or has an interest, and the other side is how can I make it approachable? How can I make it digestible?
Yeah.
In a
that's-
way that someone who's just starting out understands this basic concept. Like everyone knows what a domain is, but what's the meaning of I have my own domain? Where's the point, right? So when I tell people, hey, look, it's very nice to have your own website, you're like, well, fuck, what? Yeah. That's the first question. Why would I have my own website? Who would be interested in what I'm writing?
Right.
And then you say, well, you're writing all day on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever. So there are people interested in that because they like your post, they
That's
give
right.
you hearts, they fake your stuff. So there must be some, and then they start to think about, okay, well, there is the point.
Yeah.
Or what
You have to have that sort of like driving force, though, I think.
yeah, and you need to make it approachable to those people, like, why would I do that? And then also, and this is very important, how? How can I do it? If I have the interest and if I have the drive to that, then how can I start up?
Yeah.
How can I get them stuff running?
Very good point. And maybe there are two separate starting points. One is the person who has a domain and a website, but isn't involved in the IndieWeb at all.
Yeah.
And that will be very different from somebody who is only Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah. It's a lot about language, I think.
Yeah.
And most importantly about language, because like you said, it's very geeky, it's very back-end-ish, yeah. And I was coined, you're not a programmer, because I only write HTML, CSS, so I'm not a programmer, right? And I was like, yeah, thanks. I'll make a shirt of that, right? I'm not a programmer, cool. And to me, this is very intimidating when I see Aaron sitting here and
Yeah.
writing a little blog machine on his own, like in 15 minutes. I'm like, yeah, thanks. I knew there's PHP and I can do some templating in PHP, but what?
Yeah.
So yeah, and while he was doing this, he was talking about what he does,
Yeah.
and that makes it approachable. That
Absolutely,
makes it
yeah.
inclusive. Like, okay, now while he's writing little string, blah blah, whatever, he's saying, and this does that.
Yeah.
And that's what needs to happen on the IndieWeb wiki or on IndieWeb.org or IndieWebGuide.org, where you need to make these concepts approachable and explain people in an easy language. How can I do it? How can I enable you to do it?
So maybe it should show you can do the same, but you can do it for yourself. You
Yes,
can
exactly.
post stuff on Twitter, but you can also have it for yourself. You can have it on your own domain. And you, of course, you can still post, you can post your photos. You can also, you don't have to give them to Instagram.
No.
You can post them on your own website as well, and have your own gallery and stuff like that. And you can make that machine readable, and all the other protocols.
And then explain what is machine
Yeah,
readable.
then
What
not
does
use
it
the
mean?
word
Yeah,
machine
right.
readable, but
Yeah.
have the
So,
robot
You
overlords.
see how this is branching up into
Yeah.
a ton of subjects and it
Yeah.
explodes.
Yeah.
It just explodes.
Yeah.
So basically there's a learning principle which says enable me to do it myself. And I think that's what needs to happen.
Mm.
Enable people to do it themselves.
Yep.
So that's something really interesting because I think a lot of README files for a lot of the stuff that's out there are terrible.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Documentation is
cryptic.
horrible.
Yeah.
And then it's really bad when you see like a programmatic, approach to it when you're writing an object-oriented and you have to like, okay, how does this would look, right? And I think that that's something that at least, I mean, I think it comes to like self-reflection. I think first of all, this is my first IndieWebCamp, which is great. And I think you're already doing the first step, which is like to come together and talk to one another. But the other cool thing is that like I'm thinking about this, like how do I write this? How can I make this better? I'm only in control of that. It's my own introspection. So everyone's gonna do that. Because I have to admit, one of the reasons why I don't like associate with this sort of crowd, this geeky crowd, it's because of the overwhelming sarcasm and this like futile discussions about what is better than the other.
Really?
What I really like about this is that there is some sort of like idea of like here's best practice and this is like I was like it's more I can take it. But when I discovered that every other person, like the guys that told you that you're not a programmer, when they have the same problems that I have and they're just as confused as I am, I realized same playing field.
Yeah.
There's no fucking barrier.
Yeah.
Like, it's your ego against mine.
Yes, exactly.
And you have to have a driving force to learn it, I think.
I think I don't hang out with enough geeks.
Mm.
Because, I mean, the other thing that always got me about the IndieWeb is everyone is so nice. I mean, it's like, yeah.
It does feel sort of a bit like sort of yearly blogging meetups. I mentioned Blog Talk, where we both were, I think, 2002, which was the same thing because we have these tools and now we're trying to figure out what they're good for, and nobody knew. Yeah. And then you have that same sort of level playing field that everybody's at the same stage. That's sort of wondering, so now what? You know, and that creates an open atmosphere as well.
Yeah, I think that I'm sorry to repeat myself, but that's the good side of plurality, of do your own thing and make it work for you. And the downside is you come in, what do you do?
Yeah. Where do you start?
What do you do?
Yeah. So to sort of tie into that and maybe sort of wrap up the session, I would like to, from every one of you, sort of have this one tip, this one insight of you, the way you use the web, the IndieWeb principles yourself. Something that you could share with us, any sort of, I don't know, hosting hack or GitHub thing or whatever sort of smart thing you would like to share.
A pro tip,
Sorry?
Pro tip?
Whatever, any tip is welcome. Any tip makes me a pro than I was before, so.
I think the one thing I would say is having got set up, having something like Omnibear in the browser, in Firefox or Chrome, I use Firefox, enables you to use micropub almost friction-free.
What's it called?
Omnibear.
Oh, okay. O-M-N...
O-M-N-I-B-E-A-R.
Okay.
And it's, I never know the technical stuff, but it's an extension or a plugin. And you authorize it with, it only does one site at the moment. And you can do posts, you can do likes, you can do reposts, you can do bookmarks. And it's just a way of, if you're on a page, you can do a like of that page and it sends it through to your website. How you deal with it at your website is the second issue. But
So Omnibear.
or Quill. I mean, Quill is a little more complex, I think. But a third-party publishing.
Should we go clockwise, counterclockwise?
Well,
Philip?
I mean, I'm still trying to think because
No problem.
I think about like younger people. So I think that the school that I went to, I think it's also what sort of led me. So I would say if you have, if it's one thing, like surround other people, like, you know, host other events. And you mentioned this blog conference.
Yeah,
Talk?
blog talk. Yeah.
So is that like also like has a technical side too? How to like
That
want to
was
publish?
more ethical and you know
It was
philosophical.
there was no technology
No,
there.
no, there were a lot of geeks
It was
in the room.
pre-technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So maybe
yeah,
like conference or like workshops or conferences. I think that's because that's what you mentioned, right? You were watching him and like you were really
Sort
absorbing
of
stuff.
learning.
Yeah.
The workshop, I think,
Yeah.
kinetically
Yeah.
like learning it.
All right. Joshi, any secret tips for us you want to share? Which they will not be secret anymore, but
I was thinking about, and being distracted by the way. I think the most important thing is just do it. Don't think too long about it. Just start somewhere. I mean, you don't have. It doesn't have to be a master thesis, you know. Just start publishing something on your own. Basic, simple. It's not a tip. It's just like.
it's a lifestyle. Tom?
Well, Jeremy just mentioned being able to post frictionless. I was still trying to figure out how to do that on mobile, but the session about micropub this morning actually made me figure out how to do that for at least my blog. So I found a micropub client called Indigenous, which is available for Android and iOS. And I got it working and talking to my WordPress install now, so that worked out nicely.
Nice.
Yeah, Jeremy mentioned known or with known earlier, and I think it's, as I said, I ran it myself, and I think it's, even after they pivoted, it's still a really nice package where you get really that much IndieWeb stuff included you don't get anywhere else, I guess, in just one package. So if you would just start from scratch and say you want to have some PHP thingy running on your server, which has all this stuff like micropub and IndieOff and all this stuff all included, you can use known, run it on your own site.
Turnkey
Yeah, it's. I think in the IndieWeb space, it's one of the easiest turnkey solutions you can get.
And does it come with hosting, or do you know that?
No.
Okay,
You have to host it yourself. They offered hosting back in the day, but as you said earlier, they pivoted and.
I think Reclaim.com does at least a one. I think they do a one-click install. I don't think anybody else. I'm not sure about that. Or maybe DigitalOcean.
Don't know.
Maybe DigitalOcean might do that.
But
There's a lot of,
it's not a difficult
No,
setup.
it's not
Alright.
difficult. You can write in Docker if you want.
Maybe a more of a technical tip, as you know, frictionless posting to me also comes with frictionless writing. And on my Mac I use tons of shortcuts to quickly make like YAML files and sort of these. I have all these abbreviations for myself that sort of really quickly gives me different sorts of texts and does stuff. You know, just throw stuff at GitHub, and that's what I use a lot. Is keyboard shortcuts really helps me write faster. Well, no, not write faster, but write more frictionless and just get stuff out and get it published. So that will be my tip.
I use a tool called Text Edit, a text expander for
Yeah,
that.
text expander is one. You have
I also use it
what's the one?
like
Keyboard
blurb
Maestro.
letters and-
It's the one I use, and there are a lot of tools like that. So
yeah,
on the
really
Mac
useful,
those-
saves a lot of time.
All right.
I'm new to the IndieWeb, so I don't have any project. I will just do it.
Okay. All right. Colin?
Just to actually talk and write about what you learn, to actually understand what these concepts are about. So I've done 2 public speaking events so far, just introducing the whole concept of the IndieWeb established myself, knowing all that. It's satisfying to raise that awareness for people who've never heard of it before. So.
Yeah, oh, that's a good one. Yeah, talk about, but also write about, what you're going to sort of make it more yourself. If you write it down for yourself, you sort of learn it better. That's a good one. Yeah.
I could go with what Philip said about younger people. Look at what they're using, and I think the next step for the IndieWeb movement would be Instagram, do your own photo blog. That's much more appealing to younger people than writing stuff, because writing is boring and old people like us do that. I work in Munich and I see people taking photos with their DLRs every time, and they feed them into Instagram. You cannot tell me that it wouldn't be just as easy to put them on their photo blog. I mean, photo blogging was like a thing 10 years ago, but they're there. They're professional photographers that don't get paid. So own their stuff. I think that's a really good opportunity to get the next generation of Indian people. We talked about next generation. Get lost with all the writing crap and focus on video and photo, because there's a very visual generation right now.
Yep.
We talk about writing and getting back trackbacks and comments and web mentions, but think about photos for 1 second and what can we do about photos?
Yeah, and video, just mentioned more so with all the stories and you're absolutely right. Yeah, good one. Thanks.
But I do like to point out that with video also includes writing. So it's nice that they absorb it that way, because I think once they start creating it, they'll be.
I do love writing, so don't give me writing bad name. So.
Sorry, but I have to speed things up a bit because we're already 10 minutes over our time box.
Okay.
I think there are like 2 people missing, 2 or 3 people missing, right? So just a short sentence. Okay, that was a short one.
Just one thing, if you want to be approachable, I don't want to say never, but reduce the use of words like simple, easy, or just. How to draw an O, you make a circle and then you draw the O, right?
Yeah.
So it's not how it works.
Okay.
That's actually a good one.
How-to videos on YouTube with Aaron would be a nice idea.
Coding with Aaron.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I'd watch that.
Thanks a lot. I made a lot of notes. I will try to put them on the Etherpad somewhere in the next session, so they will not be gone. So yeah, thanks a lot, everybody. Great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
10 minutes break.
So do you have people? You mentioned you have people. Like, are you marketing people? No, I just want to understand. Do you have people that are interested in? Or are you just thinking about it?
Yeah, no, that's sort of the network I'm in the Netherlands especially, are a lot of online marketeers, a lot of, you can call them maybe sort of like these internet trend watchers, they're on the front of what's happening. They are interested in,
But they have a need to publish.
well, some of them have a need to publish, but a lot of them, I've seen the movement as well. I've been part of it as well. Having our own blog. Everybody had their own blog in the early 2000s, and then 2005, 2006. Well, Twitter came in 2007, and everything's changed. Now it's 10 years later, and there are people who say that there should be an open web. It should be easier, but what should we do? And then they look at stuff like IndieWeb and stuff that I post. Like, it's too hard. It's too geeky.
And what's your relationship to these people?
Oh, they're just friends, and we all know each other, and it's sort of this group of professionals within the digital world.
And what's your main operation in the Netherlands?
For me, right now I am sort of a community content marketer, sort of manager at a startup in Amsterdam.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of startup?
We build a mobile app. Well, we have a mobile app, like already, that connects smart devices and smart services to each other, so you can make them work together. But you know, if this then that, the servers. Okay, so we sort of we built we made a better version of it. Actually.
Oh, okay.
That's, yeah, that's
What is it called?
that's a sales pitch
For smart devices.
for smart devices. But so you can have multiple conditions, multiple actions. So you can say, you know, when it gets dark and I'm almost home, then turn on the